Sometimes it's hard to, at least for me personally, to continue to acknowledge that because I get so irritated about all the new ways that government wants to stick their fingers into everything that's going on.
Totally.
But when you kind of hold it up to the big picture globally, we're still.
Oh, the news just came out.
But it's a slippery slope, as they say.
Absolutely. Well, the news came out last week that I think it was Indonesia. In fact, I know it was Indonesia that was going to enforce specific rules associated with being a Muslim nation.
Yeah.
So the government there has very much so said, we are a Muslim nation. We're going to operate this way. I'm not casting any stones at that, but the government has decreed that this is the way it's going to be. At least in the United States, the system is set up in such a way that we can push back on that. As the voting population, we can push back on that. So we can.
In Arizona. Everywhere else you can.
But we can choose, right? By and large, we can choose who our representatives are, what the legislation is that we will entertain, and if the system gets off the tracks, we have an obligation and a responsibility and the opportunity to right it.
In theory.
Yeah, in theory.
How much do you think people? So, if you went backward in time to my parents and your parents, their generation, and you surveyed how many people, just in general American society, are aware, like that's our role in this whole thing, right? Like what you just said, probably more than like how many people now do you think really?
That's a beautiful question. So I actually want to go back to one of the episodes that you had with your barber.
My barber, Cosme.
Yeah, Cosme. So I thought it was a fantastic episode. And one thing that you two talked about is being able to put your eyes on and know the enemy. And so the statement that came out was, I think you asked Cosme, do we know who the enemy is? And he said, well, we can't see that person. We can't see that enemy now.
Yeah.
And I will argue, and this is kind of a...
It's funny, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
The memory thing, yeah.
Yeah. But I would argue that we've seen the enemy, and the enemy is us.
Yeah.
That's an old statement. But in fact, I would say that in order to save the dream, title of the podcast,
right,
we have to first look at ourselves and our immediate control, right? So I have to look at myself. Am I doing the right things? Am I owning up to that? Am I looking at my children and what lessons I'm teaching them and instilling in them, values that I'm instilling in them? Are those the right values? Am I being truly introspective about that and showing up in a way that by conscious choice, I'm doing the things that I think are going to make a difference? And I think we've lost sight of that.